Hey guys, it's Paradise, and do you want to dominate enemies in the endgame in Borderlands 4 with Amon? Well, we've tried every skill and played over 100 hours on Amon, so here is one of the strongest builds that we've found so far for him, as it deletes everything even on the highest difficulty in the game, Ultimate Vault Hunter Mode 5. As we've played a lot of Amon, we know he can be a bit difficult to build, as he does have a lot of versatility in his skill trees, so if you invest in the wrong thing you miss out on massive damage increases, and a lot of his skills have fixed damage or long cooldowns rather than percentage based buffs and things like that that scale well into the endgame. But thankfully, we've found a few that work really well together, and this is the first that will have you running around with infinite ordnance uptime, incredible crowd control, and just destroying bosses as fast as some of the more glitched builds for Vault Hunters like Rafa and Vex. We are calling this one 2/6's Nuke, and we're really happy with it, so let's get into it with what you need to know so you can start building it right away, and tell us below what builds you're running for Amon too. Now, the idea behind the build is to juice your ordnance damage as much as possible through skills so it hits like an absolute truck, and then use skills that either reduce the cooldown or refund ammo so you essentially never run out of ordnance ammo. As you can see here on the training dummy, we've made it so you not only get massive damage, but you also rack up huge status ticks, which is good enough to rip through pretty much any defense the enemy has, like shields, armor, and even those annoying purple crystals. To build this, you will need the following skills from the cybernetic tree. Executioner for crit hit damage increases, as this increases our critical damage to 15% at max and a further 15% for a total of 30% after meleeing something. Then Get the Lead Out and Bolt Action are powerful skills that enhance your gunplay by adding shock to your shots after reloading, but since we aren't reloading, we are going to forego these instead, and we're picking up Gathering Storm for some additional elemental damage, which will increase all elemental damage by 10% per stack after killing an enemy, which is great when you are mobbing. We have a choice then between additional gun damage after using our Forge skill, which will increase gun damage by 35%, and gun damage is important as there's a specialization that allows your ordnance damage to scale from 50% of your gun damage, and then you have Vital Organs, which will give you another 10% additional crit chance for each stack up to 30%, which allows you to hit crits without landing headshots, which is useful for some of the more splash damage focused builds. Then the last things to pick up from the Crucible tree is Cacophony, which is a nice 25% ordnance damage and bonus detonation radius, which doesn't really apply here but is a nice byproduct. And then the most critical skill that we'll be picking up is the Endless Bombardment, as this is what gives us a chance to refund 1 ammo from our heavy weapons straight to the magazine when damaging an enemy. This becomes amazing on any weapon that hits rapidly or produces multiple ricochets on impact, as it will basically instantly give you back your whole magazine, allowing you to endlessly bombard the enemy. Also, if you're wondering, we tested this, and since grenades are a chance on use, it doesn't work as well as heavy weapon procs, which is on the damage hit. After this, you will need to pick up some additional things from the Scourge tree or the blue tree. We are grabbing the Scorched Kairos for 25% additional ordnance damage and 30% bigger magazine size, which will give us a bit more wiggle room for that ammo regen. After that, we have another star of the show, the Tail of the Comet. This allows your ordnance shots to deal additional cryo damage over time for 60% of the initial damage, which is massive considering sometimes a single shot can be in the hundreds of thousands of damage. And because of the 150% application chance it applies the majority of the time, it makes it one of our best ways to go to deal damage. Next, we're picking up some additional cryo damage with 5 points in Ancient Ways for that 35% cryo increase that synergizes really well with Tail of the Comet. From here, we're going into the right branch of the tree for Blackout, which allows your ordnance to crit hit by giving us 15% more crit chance, which doesn't sound like much, but it actually triggers a majority of the time because of the spread of the ordnance. Alongside that, Blackout gives us shock damage on crits, giving us 1 more elemental damage type in the mix, which is great. However, from our testing, this actually seems bugged and deals less damage than it should, as the description says 105% of the damage per second, but we only seem to be hitting for 5% of the damage, so we're hoping this will get fixed because it will be amazing for Amon if it does. Lastly, for the skills, we're picking up Tactician, which gives us more gun damage and fire rate at the cost of gun handling. which even though it says it applies it to guns, it does actually apply it to our ordnance weapons as well, which is great. If you are feeling a bit squishy, you can reduce some of the points in Tactician and spend them elsewhere on more survivability skills like the Trill. You can also completely forego both Blackout and Tactician for Lightning Rod, which gives you a chance at a one-off proc of shock damage that actually deals 150% of damage dealt. But we are not a massive fan of this because of the long 8-second cooldown. Battleborn, however, is a good pick for additional damage while on full health. For the augments though, we will be picking up the Endless War, as this gives us a 15% increase to damage taken by an enemy that is primed, and you can also consider the Axe and Stone for reduced ordnance cooldown when you don't have the specializations, or Searing Cold, as this will freeze enemies in place with the Frost Axe, which is very useful. For the capstone, we have the Snow Maul, which sends out a Forge skill axe that bounces between targets, causing cryo damage. Next, for the specializations, we're prioritizing the Survivor, Brute, and Gadgeteer tree. So you want to put 20 points in Brute so you can grab Riddle You This for that 50% increased gun damage, which is just an easy pickup and it's an easy one to upkeep as well. And then 10 points into Survivor so you can access the Gadgeteer skill tree where you want to grab all of those nodes. Tripwire is amazing because it reduces your ordnance cooldown by 25% for each activation, which is super easy if you're using the Crucible tree. Then you get a massive bump to your damage by grabbing the Full Spectrum Arsenal skill that allows your ordnance damage to scale off of your gun damage by 50%. Lastly, we pick up the Fragmentation Payload for an additional 5% crit chance and 50% crit damage. There are other specializations that would increase gun damage, crit, and status damage, but this is the fast way to access the ordnance-related stuff here. If you do have additional points, you could consider grabbing those too. For the equipment, the barrier to entry here is hopefully low, as there's a few things you need that are relatively easy to get, which are the class mod and heavy weapon. The first is a rocket launcher with the shrapnel perk, as this causes additional pellets to ricochet on contact. This is important because this will actually proc the refund of the ammo instantly and give you back your maximum ammo stacks. The rocket launchers themselves that work really well for this includes ones like the Junk Drunk prefix, and we've also found that the Sticky Honey Bunches works super well, as you can load all of the rockets and shoot them together for a complete refresh of your ammo. This build is also insanely good with the Streamer, as you can just infinitely hold it down to attack, as the ammo lasers will refresh themselves thanks to the proc of damage that they deal, and it is just incredible damage and very powerful. Now the class mod is important because so far it seems most of the ordnance buffing traits come from class mods, and they are rarely or not at all rolled on enhancements. So for the class mod, you need something that adds additional crit hit chance for ordnance and ordnance damage. As you can see here, we have one called the Snow Commando, which comes with the skill Catastrophe that increases our crit damage or damage when burning or shocking is applied, as well as Bullet Hail, which is amazing as it allows the damage of the rocket to ricochet again, adding more mobbing potential. Ours has 45% damage and 10% crit chance for ordnance, but maybe you can find an even better one and replace the maximum health with something like Splash Damage or Splash Radius. For the shield, I'm using the Fireworks Armor Shield, which releases additional rockets on kill, making the build even more of a nuke theme, but if you feel like you need additional survivability, you can grab something with more capacity. The guns really don't matter here, and we haven't found anything that scales off of ordnance damage, like the Face Puncher or Slippy does for melee damage, so pick what you want as a backup, and just remember we have a lot of cryo buffs in the build. For firmware, we're again putting on the ordnance related ones, and there's only really two good choices. Gadget Ahoy reduces the cooldown, adds a flat 20% damage increase and another 20% on kills, so we're taking 3 in this. And then Get Throwing will give us another 10% ordnance damage and 20% to the splash radius, but just watch out you don't hit yourself. So here's some tricks to get this to work fully for you. You don't want to just spam out all the rockets as fast as possible. Keep note, and if you are about to run out of rockets, which can happen as they have a slow projectile speed, or if you spam them, you may not get your ammo back in time. So wait for the rocket to land before shooting a new one, or ensure you have enough ammo stacked. If you're using the Sticky Honey Bunches, which is one of our favorites to use in this build, then you may want to charge one less rocket than the max to shoot, so you can retain ammo and not put your weapon on cooldown and lock you out of getting that ammo back. In case your ordnance is on cooldown, well, thanks to the Tripwire specialization, you can use your action skill, which you have 3 charges of, to quickly get your ordnance cooldown back. Just throw out your axe 3 times and it should be back up for you. Also beware of the splash damage of the rocket because it can clap you if you aren't focusing, so having a backup gun for when you're in a close quarters fight is a good option. Well, other than that, that's pretty much it. Just go and blow stuff up and have infinite amounts of fun with your plentiful rockets, and everything just gets wrecked all around you. All in all, this build will have you clearing most, if not all, of the endgame content in line with the other classes, and it's just a ton of fun. However, after playing around with Amon, we do wish that some of his skills scaled better at the endgame. For example, the Forge drones are great for the campaign, but they're not so great when you hit the ultimate Vault Hunter modes. Hopefully, however, he gets some buffs soon, but for now, have fun nuking everything. Here at Arix Gaming, we're two friends who love to play games. You have me, Paradise, as well as 2-6.
Our goal is to keep the videos as concise as possible by cutting out any of the fluff and focusing on what really matters with high quality videos.
So make sure you're subscribed down below for more videos on your favorite games coming very, very soon.